Good afternoon, my dear student. This is our first recorded session for the social study, and the first unit we are going to start with is the Queen Elizabeth I. All of us know that Queen Elizabeth I was the Queen of England, but actually maybe we don't know a lot about details that happened in her life and how was she struggling through those details, and how did she succeed to be the most important queen that had ruled the whole England. First, let's know about the ID of Elizabeth the First. Her father was King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII, that was her father, and her mother was Queen Anne. Here she is. Before this, we have to know that Elizabeth has been born in the 7th of September, 1533. We spoke about her father and her mother, okay? And while her father and mother were there, she was the heir of the throne of England. Actually, Anne was not the first wife of King Henry. His first wife was Catherine of Aragon. That was her first wife, and she gave birth to Mary first. Here she is. King Henry VIII was very aggressive. He was not a kind father. He wanted to divorce Catherine of Aragon because he wanted a son to inherit his throne. So he wanted to divorce Catherine of Aragon and to marry Anne Boleyn. The Pope of the Church. He was the Pope of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church. That was the church that was ruling England during this time. The Pope of this church refused this marriage. So King Henry had to think about something else. So he invented the Protestant Church of England. So the Pope had the Pope of the Catholic didn't have any influence on Britain during this time. So by this way, the King Henry managed to marry beautiful Anne, and he divorced his first wife, which her name was Catherine of Aragon. The reason of divorcing her and marrying Anne was that because he wanted a son so bad. And after the marriage, Anne, unfortunately, the second wife, did not give Henry a boy. She gave birth to another girl who was Elizabeth I. Now Henry wanted to marry again. Maybe the third will give him a boy that he wanted. So he had to think about something different in order to get rid of his second wife, which was Anne. So Henry put his second wife, Anne Boleyn, to death for high treason or betrayal when Elizabeth was 3 years old. So as we did there, Henry started to think about a way to get rid of his second wife, which was Anne Boleyn. So he put her to death for high treason or betrayal. That was when Elizabeth was three years old. But of course, the main reason was because she didn't give him the son. Elizabeth has to live in Hatfield House after her mother's death. Henry married the third wife, who was Jane Seymour. And finally, that was the wife who gave him the first son, who was Prince Edward. After Prince Edward, Elizabeth had become no longer an heir to the throne or even a princess. She lived in her half brother Edward's household, and there she enjoyed the royal upbringing. Uh, do you think that Henry had stopped marrying? No. Henry married a total of 6 wives, and his last wife was Catherine, that was in front of you. Her name is Catherine Parr, and she was the only wife who was kind to Elizabeth. How was she kind to Elizabeth? She allowed her to return to the royal court. This is number one. She made sure that Elizabeth had the best daughters, and also she raised her in the Protestant faith. Now we have in England two kind of faiths. We have Protestant and the Catholic. Henry died in 1547, and Elizabeth was 13 years old in this time. And of course, now who is the one who will inherit him? Edward. Edward, who was 10 years old, was his only successor, the one who will take the throne after his death. But unfortunately, Edward was so weak, and he was so sick too, and most of the people knew that he was not going well, or he would not live for a long time. One day, Edward became very sick, and a lot of people who were expecting that he will die, their prediction has come true, because in the age of 15 years old he died in 1553. During his life as a king, Elizabeth was enjoying the life of a wealthy lady in his palace. Now, after the death of Edward, who took the throne of England? Mary. Mary became the queen, and while she was the queen, she married a Spanish prince called Philip, and this one we are going to meet him in a story with Elizabeth later on. For Mary, this is the coronation of Queen Mary. When Mary became a queen, she was devout. She was a devout Catholic. It means that she was connected strictly to the faith, the Catholic faith, and she wanted to convert all of England to Catholic religion. And anyone refused to convert, she decided to throw him or her in the prison, or to be killed. Of course, because of that, people in England didn't like Queen Mary, and they started to hate her. At the same time, Queen Mary started to feel afraid of her sister Elizabeth. She was afraid that she may try to take over her throne. So she decided to put her sister, who was Elizabeth, she put her in the prison for being a Protestant. Elizabeth was imprisoned for 2 months at something called the Tower of London, this building on the slide. She stayed there for only 2 months. Next session, we're going to know why did she stay there 2 months only? Did her sister Mary decide to release her or forgive her? How did she move from being a prisoner to be a queen for England? That's all we are going to know about it next session, inshallah. Thank you for listening, and wait for me next time to hear more about the story of Elizabeth. See you again. Bye.